You know New Jersey for its diverse range of attractions and characteristics, including its beaches, boardwalks, its rich culinary scene, and its contributions to music and the arts. But there is a darker side you do not know. Hidden in the woods and buried under parks are towns that once thrived, but now completely abandoned and forgotten. In this video, we are going to uncover 11 ghost towns that you won't believe exist in such a beautiful state. But before diving into our countdown, make sure to hit that subscribe button and stick around till the end, because the #1 ghost town on this list is wrapped in one of the weirdest stories the internet has ever produced. Number 11. Hampton Furnace, Burlington County. Hampton Furnace sits deep in Wharton State Forest, near the headwaters of the Batsto River, about 7 miles southeast of Chemong. Sand roads are the only way in. Ironmaster Clayton Earl built the furnace around 1795 to smelt bog iron pulled from nearby swamps. A forge followed in 1810. Workers lived in rough cabins, made charcoal, and cast household iron goods. Production slowed after better anthracite furnaces opened in Pennsylvania. By the 1850s, Hampton's stack went cold. The site later shifted to cranberry sorting before the village was abandoned for good. Today, only the furnace base, a few brick walls, and traces of the cranberry bog remain. Pines and blueberry bushes grow through old slag piles. Off-roaders and hikers visit, but there are no signs or fences. The place feels frozen in an earlier century. Some beams show scorch marks from a controlled forest fire in 2006. Rangers burned brush to protect the ruins, leaving the stack charred but still standing. Locals say the blackened bricks make Hampton look even more haunted at dusk. Number 10. Raritan Landing, Middlesex County. A busy colonial port once stood on this quiet bend of the Raritan River. Today the town is gone, buried under a park and a 4-lane road. Welcome to Raritan Landing. Raritan Landing sits in Piscataway Township, on the north bank of the Raritan River, across from New Brunswick. The remains lie under Johnson Park and along River Road near Landing Lane. Merchants founded the port in the early 1700s. By the 1740s, the landing held about 70 buildings, shops, and homes, making it the farthest upstream spot that ocean-going ships could reach. Farmers sent grain and timber here, then loaded them onto sloops bound for New York and the Caribbean. Trade slowed after the Delaware and Raritan Canal opened in 1834. And railroads took business away. By the 1870s, most buildings were dismantled, and the land turned to pasture. Nothing of the old port shows above ground except 2 bluff-top homes, the 1741 Cornelius Low House and the Metlar Bodine House. Everything else rests beneath the grass of Johnson Park. Archaeologists have mapped streets, cellars, and dock timbers, and many artifacts are on display at East Jersey Old Town Village nearby. During digs for a highway project in the 1990s, crews uncovered clay pipes stamped RL and wine bottle shards from Madeira. Each shard was catalogued, then reburied to protect the site for future study. Locals joke that Johnson Park is the only place in New Jersey where history is literally 6 feet under. Ships stopped coming to Raritan Landing, but deep in the Pine Barrens, another village kept its iron fires burning a bit longer. Next, we head south to Aten. Number 9. Aten, Burlington County. Aten is located along Route 206 in Wharton State Forest, near Chemong Township. It sits next to Aten Lake, about halfway between Hamilton and Vincenttown. The village began in 1766, when Charles Redd built an iron furnace here to make pig iron from bog ore. In the early 1800s, Samuel Richards bought the site and expanded it into a full company town. It included a grist mill, sawmill, church, workers' homes, and a grand Greek revival mansion built in 1826. Aten iron was used in stoves and ship parts, including castings for Congress Hall in Philadelphia. But like many bog iron towns, it couldn't compete with larger coal-fueled furnaces in Pennsylvania. Iron production ended in 1848, and the village slowly emptied out. Today, Aten is part of Wharton State Forest and open to the public. The mansion still stands, though it's closed for restoration. Only foundations remain of the mills and cabins. Visitors can walk the grounds, picnic by the lake, or hike trails that lead deep into the Pine Barrens. In the late 1800s, Aten became a summer retreat. Trains brought vacationers from Camden and Philadelphia to swim in the lake and explore the woods. Today, the site blends both histories, the silence of a lost industry and the echoes of families on holiday. The mansion at Aten still watches over the forest, but just north of here, another village survives with its entire main street frozen in time. That place is known simply as the Deserted Village. Number 8. The Deserted Village, Feltville, Union County. On a winding road in the woods, 10 empty houses stand in a row. Some windows are boarded, others are wide open. This isn't a movie set. It's a real abandoned town hidden inside a public park. The Deserted Village, also known as Feltville, is located inside the Watchung Reservation in Union County. It sits along Cataract Hollow Road in Berkeley Heights, just off Glenside Avenue. In 1845, businessman David Felt moved his printing operation here from New York City. He built a factory, a church, a store, and 2 rows of homes to house around 175 workers and their families. Locals called it Feltville. But after Felt left in 1860, the town slowly emptied. In the 1880s, it was turned into a summer resort called Glenside Park. That business also failed by the early 1900s. The village has been mostly abandoned ever since. Today, 10 original buildings still stand, including homes, the carriage house, and the church-turned-visitor center. Union County manages the site, offering self-guided tours and Halloween events like haunted hayrides and ghost walks. The houses are mostly empty, but the village is open to the public during daylight hours. Some say the houses are haunted. Park staff have reported cold spots, strange sounds, and movement in buildings that haven't had tenants in decades. Whether you believe the stories or not, it's one of the most intact abandoned villages in the state. Number 7. Aair Village, Monmouth County. Aair Village is located in Aair State Park, Wall Township, Monmouth County. It sits just off Route 524, not far from the Garden State Parkway exit 98. The village began in the early 1800s as the Howell Iron Works, founded by James P. Aair, a wealthy industrialist from New York. He chose this spot for its bog iron and access to timber for charcoal. At its peak in the 1830s, over 400 people lived and worked here. The site had everything: a forge, a carpenter's shop, a bakery, a school, and even worker housing. But as higher-grade ore and steam-powered furnaces rose elsewhere, production slowed. By 1846, the ironworks shut down, and most residents moved away. Today, Aair Village is a restored living history site within Aair State Park. Many of the original buildings have been preserved or reconstructed, including the chapel, general store, blacksmith shop, and blast furnace. Costumed interpreters demonstrate trades and tell stories from the village's peak years. On quiet days, the empty streets and silent structures give it that true ghost town feel, even though it's alive on weekends. James P. Aair also owned a shipyard in New York and used iron from this village to build steam engines for ocean vessels. He commuted between New Jersey and Manhattan, a rare move for the 1830s. His personal house still stands at the site. While Aair lived on through preservation, the next town on our list didn't get the same chance. It boomed during the war and then vanished within 5 years. Let's head to the lost town of Amitol. But before the transition, I hope you're enjoying this video so far, so make sure to give us a gentle thumbs up. It would mean a lot. Now let's move to Atlantic County for our next ghost town. Number 6, Amitol, Atlantic County. It was built in a matter of months. It housed over 2,000 workers. And just as quickly as it appeared, it was abandoned. What remains now is buried deep in the pines. This is Amitol. Amitol was located just outside Hamilton, in Mullica Township, Atlantic County. The ruins lie along Amitol Road, hidden in the Pine Barrens off Route 30, White Horse Pike. Amitol was founded in 1918 during World War I. The US government partnered with the DuPont Company to build a massive munitions plant to produce Amitol, an explosive used in artillery shells. A temporary town was constructed to house workers and their families. At its peak, the town had over 250 buildings, including houses, a post office, school, and shops. But the war ended in 1918, just months after production began. Without demand for shells, the plant closed. The town followed. Most buildings were dismantled or abandoned by 1923. Today, the site is overgrown, but signs of Amitol remain. Concrete foundations, rail beds, and crumbling brick structures are still visible. A sand road cuts through the area where the main plant once stood. It's unmarked and not officially maintained. Visitors should use caution. The site is remote and has no signage or facilities. In the 1920s, a wooden racetrack called the Atlantic City Speedway was built over part of the Amitol site. It was one of the fastest tracks of its time, hosting high-speed races until it too was abandoned in 1933. Today, both the town and the racetrack are slowly being reclaimed by the forest. From explosives to engines, Amitol disappeared almost overnight. But one village in northern New Jersey survived, frozen in time along a historic canal. That's where we're heading next. Number 5. Waterloo Village, Sussex County. Waterloo Village is located in Byram Township, Sussex County, within Allamuchy Mountain State Park. It sits just off County Route 604, near Stanhope and the Musconetcong River. Waterloo grew in the 1800s as a key stop along the Morris Canal, a 102-mile waterway used to transport coal, iron, and goods across New Jersey. The village served canal workers and travelers. It had an inn, a water-powered grist mill, blacksmiths, a church, and several homes. During its peak in the mid-1800s, it was home to nearly 400 residents. But as railroads replaced canals, traffic through Waterloo slowed. By the early 1900s, the canal was drained, and the village fell quiet. Many buildings were left to decay. Today, Waterloo is a partially restored historic site. Some buildings, including the mill, store, and canal lock, have been rebuilt or preserved. The village hosts occasional events and school tours, but outside of those, many buildings remain closed or boarded up. Visitors can walk the paths, peek inside windows, and imagine what life once looked like along the canal. In the 1960s, a folk music and history group helped revive the village. It briefly became a popular tourist stop with concerts and craft fairs, before funding dried up in the early 2000s. Since then, it's been stuck somewhere between restoration and ruin. Waterloo faded when the canal dried up. But deeper in the Pine Barrens, a forgotten town kept its fires burning long after others shut down. Let's find out. Number 4. Batsto Village, Atlantic County. Batsto Village is located in Wharton State Forest, within Washington Township, Atlantic County. It sits along Route 542, about 8 miles east of Hamilton. The site is operated by the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. Batsto was founded in 1766 by Charles Reid as an ironworks site, taking advantage of nearby bog iron, wood for charcoal, and the Mullica River for transport. In the late 1700s, it produced iron for tools, stoves, and even military supplies during the Revolutionary War. In the early 1800s, the Richards family expanded the village and built the iconic Batsto Mansion, a 32-room home overlooking the town. As the iron industry declined, Batsto shifted to glassmaking. But by the late 1800s, that too faded. By the early 1900s, only a few families remained. In 1954, the state of New Jersey acquired the property and began restoration. Today, Batsto is a fully preserved historic village. Over 40 structures remain, including the mansion, sawmill, blacksmith shop, grist mill, ice house, and workers' homes. The visitor center is open daily, and the mansion offers tours. Despite its upkeep, much of the village is empty, making it feel like a real ghost town frozen in time. Batsto had an active post office until 1989, long after the village was technically abandoned. It was the longest operating post office in any historic village in the US, handling real mail until it finally closed for good. Batsto was saved by preservation, but not every town in New Jersey was that lucky. One coastal borough was completely erased by storms. Its remains only show up when the tide goes out, and that's where we're heading next. Number 3. South Cape May, Cape May County. Imagine a town that simply disappeared into the sea. Streets, houses, shops, all wiped away. Today, nothing remains above ground, but when the tide is low, pieces of it still rise from the surf. This is South Cape May. South Cape May was located on the southern tip of New Jersey, just west of the current city of Cape May. The town stretched between Sunset Boulevard and the Delaware Bay. The site is now part of the South Cape May Meadows Preserve, managed by the Nature Conservancy. South Cape May was officially incorporated in 1894 as a beachfront resort town. It had elegant homes, a boardwalk, and views of the Atlantic that drew tourists from Philadelphia and New York. By the early 1900s, the town had more than 40 structures, including hotels, stores, and a trolley line connecting it to Cape May. But the town sat on shifting sand. Severe coastal erosion and repeated storms, especially the hurricane of 1944, destroyed most of the buildings and flooded the land. By 1945, the borough was officially dissolved. Residents were forced to leave, and the remaining buildings were either moved inland or collapsed into the ocean. Today, South Cape May is completely gone. The land is now a protected wetland and bird sanctuary. There are no buildings left, but at very low tide, visitors sometimes spot pieces of pilings or old roadbeds poking through the sand. A few plaques near Sunset Beach tell the story of the town that once stood there. Locals say you can still find bricks and bits of foundation washed up on the beach after a strong storm. Some longtime Cape May residents remember stories of grandparents who once stayed in seaside cottages where seabirds now nest. Number 2. Walpack Center, Sussex County. Walpack Center is located in Walpack Township, Sussex County, inside the Delaware Water Gap National Recreation Area. It sits off Walpack Flatbrook Road, about 10 miles west of Branchville. Walpack Center was established in the early 1800s as a rural service hub for surrounding farms in the Flatbrook Valley. It had a church, general store, schoolhouse, post office, and about a dozen homes. Life stayed quiet and steady here for over 100 years. But in the 1960s, the U.S. government planned to build the Tox Island Dam on the Delaware River. The project would have created a massive reservoir, flooding the valley, including Walpack Center. The government bought out hundreds of residents, boarded up homes, and cleared properties in preparation. Then came the twist. After years of protest, geological issues, and rising costs, the dam project was cancelled in 1978. The people were gone, but the town was never flooded. Today, Walpack Center is part of the national park. Several buildings remain: the 1871 Methodist Church, post office, former schoolhouse, and homes, all empty. A few structures are used for park storage or offices. The town is open to visitors, and ranger-led tours are sometimes offered. The streets are quiet, the buildings untouched. It feels like the town just paused one day and never resumed. The post office in Walpack Center stayed open until 1988, even though almost no one lived there. It was kept alive by history buffs and a small handful of nearby residents who refused to let it close. Today, it's one of the most photographed ghost towns in the region. The government cleared out Walpack to build a dam that never came. But our next town? It was never even real. At least, not in the way most towns are. The stories about it are some of the weirdest you'll ever hear. Number 1. Ong's Hat, Burlington County. Ong's Hat is located in the heart of the New Jersey Pine Barrens, near the border of Pemberton and Southampton townships in Burlington County. The exact spot is debated, but it's often placed near Ong's Hat Road, off Route 72. Today, it's part of Brendan T. Byrne State Forest. Ong's Hat was once a real place, dating back to the late 1700s. It began as a tiny settlement, or rest stop along early trade routes. The town's name supposedly came from a man named Ong, who threw his fancy silk hat into the air, and it landed on a tree branch. The name stuck, and the location was marked on old maps. By the 1800s, Ong's hat had a tavern, a few cabins, and maybe a stagecoach stop, but it never grew into a full town. By the early 1900s, nothing remained except the name on a road and some sandy clearings in the woods. But in the 1980s, Ong's hat became famous again. Not for its history, but for an internet legend. A series of pamphlets and websites claimed that secret experiments had been conducted in the woods near Ong's hat, where rogue scientists opened a portal to another dimension. It was called the Ong's Hat Interdimensional Experiment, and it became one of the internet's first viral conspiracy theories. There are no structures left at Ong's Hat. Hikers in the area will find sand roads, pine trees, and maybe a clearing or two. But that hasn't stopped people from visiting. Curious explorers and paranormal fans still come looking for signs of the mysterious lab, even though the entire story was eventually revealed to be a hoax, part of a fictional ARG alternate reality game created as an art project. Despite being fake, the Ong's Hat myth spread so far online that government agencies reportedly received questions about it. Some believers still think there's more to the story, and that something really did happen deep in the pines. Now, as we wrap up our journey, let us know which town surprised you the most. Drop your favorite in the comments, and if you think we missed one, let us know. We're always looking for the next ghost town to explore.